All right, let's dive into the world of Gatie trades and his ICT trading framework. I've been looking over this PDF you sent, and wow, this isn't your average trading manual.
No, it's a whole different approach.
Definitely seems like it. By the end of this, you'll have a good grasp of how this framework tackles the market.
It's a complete system, for sure.
It really is. Some of the terms he uses really jumped out at me. Judas swing, silver bullet, one setup for life.
Yeah.
You don't hear that on Wall Street every day. But even before those setups, what really struck me was how he starts with psychology.
Right.
Most traders I know, they just want to jump right into charts and indicators.
Well, Gatie trades sees psychology as the foundation. He argues that even the best technical analysis won't help if your mindset's not right.
So it's not enough to just see the patterns. You need the mental discipline to actually execute the trades.
Exactly. It's like you could have a Ferrari, but if you don't know how to drive, it's not going to get you very far. He outlines 10 key characteristics for a successful trader. And these apply outside of trading, too.
Oh, interesting.
We're talking about being calm, focused, disciplined, patient, critical, confident, fearless, passionate, open-minded, independent.
That's quite a list. It sounds like a recipe for success in any area. But how does he tie those characteristics to trading specifically?
Let's take fearless, for example. You might think a fearless trader is reckless, someone who takes huge risks.
Right.
But Gatie Trades defines it differently. To him, it's accepting losses as part of the game, but still managing your risk. He gives an example, a trader who has 5 losing trades in a row, but sticks to their plan, knowing it's statistically sound, and then ends up profitable on the 6th.
Wow.
That's fearless trading in action.
That's a really good point. So it's not about not feeling fear, but having that mental strength to manage it and stay disciplined.
Exactly.
So once you've cultivated this trader's mindset, what's the next step in his framework?
Gatie Trades calls it the before trading routine. It's all about getting ready for success.
Okay, routines, got it. It's like an athlete warming up before a game. Gets you in the zone.
Exactly. He recommends 3 rituals. First, mark key price levels for the week. Look at past highs, lows, support, and resistance areas. Anything that could influence the price action. It's like making a roadmap.
So trying to anticipate where the market might react.
Exactly. He wants to know those potential turning points. The second ritual, get that trading journal prepped. This is where you'll log your trades, analyze how you're doing, and see where you can improve.
The trading journal, a classic tool for self-reflection, even in the trading world.
Yeah. And the last ritual is what he calls the psychological reminder. It's a list of affirmations or reminders to get your mind right before you even look at the charts.
This is where it starts to sound less like Wall Street and more like, I don't know, mindfulness.
Yeah, a bit.
Can you give us an example of what might be on this psychological reminder?
Sure. One is, you do not have to put a trade on. It is okay to demo or tape read. It's a reminder that you don't have to force trades.
Oh, interesting.
Sometimes the best trade is no trade.
I really like this emphasis on the mental side. Seems like he's saying mastering your emotions is as important as mastering the charts.
Absolutely.
So we've got our minds right, journals ready, key levels marked. What's next?
Now it's time for some pre-market analysis. We're going to play detective.
Okay, so we're starting to look for clues about how the market might behave today.
Exactly. Gatie Trades wants to understand the overall context before even thinking about trades.
Okay.
He starts by checking the economic calendar.
Okay.
Is there a big announcement coming out that could cause a lot of volatility?
Right.
Is it a day where the price might stay in a tight range or move a lot?
So we're getting a sense of the potential catalysts that could drive the market.
Right. He'll also look at the average daily range, or ADR, to gauge the volatility. And he studies price action from previous sessions.
Okay.
What's the market telling us? Are there any trends emerging?
It's like gathering intel before a mission. You wouldn't jump out of a plane without knowing what's below, right?
Exactly. You need the context before making decisions. And once you have all that information, you're ready to move on to the core of the framework, identifying a trading model.
Right, so now we're getting into the specifics. What kind of models are we talking about here?
Well, he's got a whole arsenal, 7 to be exact.
7.
And they have some pretty interesting names. The 9.30 Judas Swing AMD model, the MMXM model, that one has a few variations.
Okay.
The Daily Candle Po3 model, the 10000 AM Silver Bullet model, and that's just to name a few.
Definitely catchy names. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah.
But I imagine each model is pretty complex.
They are, but they all have a set of criteria and rules to help you identify specific setups in the market. It's about having that plan in place,
Okay.
So you're not just making impulsive decisions based on gut feelings.
So it's like having blueprints for different market scenarios.
Exactly. Now, for this deep dive, how about we pick one model and really break it down?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Which one should we go with?
I'm looking at the material you sent, and the Daily Candle Po3 model seems to have some really clear visual examples. What do you think?
Let's crack open the Daily Candle Po3 model then. I'm ready.
All right. So the first thing Gatie Trades looks for is the expectation of a large range day.
So right away we're thinking, okay, things could get wild today.
Right. This could be something you spotted in the economic calendar during pre-market analysis, like maybe a big news release is coming.
Sure.
Then he focuses on identifying something called a draw on liquidity and a directional bias for that daily candle. Basically, where are the big players likely to push the price and in what direction?
Draw on liquidity. That sounds interesting.
It's key to his approach. Think of the market like a giant magnet, and liquidity is the metal.
Right.
Big players, they need to attract that metal, that liquidity, to execute their large orders. And they do this by pushing the price towards areas where stop-loss orders are clustered,
Okay.
which then triggers a bunch of orders and creates momentum.
So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The big players, they see where the less experienced traders have their stops, and they push the price there to trigger them.
Exactly. Now, to figure out that draw on liquidity, Gatie Trades looks at things like previous daily highs and lows, weekly, even monthly levels.
Okay.
He also analyzes imbalances in the market, things like fair value gaps and volume imbalances.
So it's a mix of technical analysis and some market psychology, trying to get inside the minds of those big players.
Exactly. The next piece is what's called the daily profile. It basically describes how the price is likely to unfold throughout the day based on what's happened in the past.
I remember seeing something about NY reversal and low reversal. Do those come into play here?
Yes, that's part of what he calls session dynamics.
Okay.
The NY reversal, for instance, suggests that if London was very active and the price moved a lot, then New York might consolidate or even reverse. And the LO reversal, it's the opposite. If London was quiet, New York might be where the action happens.
It's like this global dance between the different trading sessions.
I like that analogy. And lastly, we need to see if the price has reached something called a high time frame price delivery array, or HTF PDA, in either the discount or premium zone.
Okay, that one sounds a little intimidating.
It's not as complex as it sounds. Let me break it down. A price delivery array is a zone where the price is likely to react because it aligns with important levels from the past, like previous highs or lows.
Okay.
High time frame simply means it's a level that's significant on the daily or weekly chart.
So it's a level that's been respected by the market before and could act as support or resistance again.
Precisely. Discount and premium just mean if the price is trading below or above its perceived fair value.
Okay, starting to get it. So let's recap. For the daily candle Po3 model, we're looking for a volatile day. We found a potential draw on liquidity and a sense of the daily profile, and we've seen the price reach a significant HKF PDA. Now what?
Now we look for the Po3 part, which stands for point of control. It's basically the price where the most trading has happened. If the price, after reaching that HGF PDA, starts moving away from the point of control, it creates what he calls a displacement move.
So the price is being pulled away from its comfort zone.
Right. And that displacement, it often leaves behind what's called a fair value gap or an inefficient fair value gap. These are areas where the price has moved so quickly, it's left these gaps where no trading has occurred.
So those gaps are like pockets of opportunity.
That's one way to think about it. And that brings us to the next step in Gatie Trade's framework, executing an entry model.
All right, so now we've identified a potential trade setup. Let's talk about how to actually enter that trade. I think it's time for part 2 of this deep dive.
So we're picking up where we left off. You spotted a potential trade using that daily candle Po3 model. Now you're looking for that sweet entry point. That's where Gatie Trade's entry models come in.
Right, those entry models with the unique names.
Yeah.
We mentioned them earlier, but remind me, what are they again?
Okay, so we have the FVG LMT order entry, IFVG MKT order entry, Unicorn LMT order entry, BRKR MIT LMT order entry, price delivery continuum theory entry, and last but not least, OT entry model.
Wow, quite a few.
Yeah.
Since we're in daily candle Po3 model territory here, with those fair value gaps, which of these entry techniques would make the most sense?
Well, given that we're focusing on those FVGs, those fair value gaps formed by that displacement move, the natural fit would be the FVG LMT order entry.
Okay, FEG LMT order entry. Break that down for me.
So this entry technique is all about precision. The idea is to enter the trade using a limit order placed right within that FVG that's formed. Remember, the FVG is that area where the price moved quickly and left a gap. Gatie Trades believes price often revisits these areas, almost like it's trying to fill that gap.
So we're kind of setting a trap for the price, waiting for it to come back and trigger our order.
So that's a great way to put it. For a buy setup, you'd place your limit order just below the low of that FVG, and for a sell setup, it would be just above the high.
I like that we're not chasing the price. Feels much more disciplined. But, of course, we can't forget about risk management.
Oh, absolutely. Risk management is crucial. And Gatie Trades, he's very specific about this. He even gives a concrete example using a $50,000 funded account.
Okay, let's hear it. How does he approach risk in that scenario?
All right, so he says a maximum daily loss limit of 15% of the account drawdown. So let's say the account has a drawdown of $2,000. The maximum daily loss he allows is $300.
Wow, that's pretty tight. Really shows how important protecting capital is to him.
He also limits himself to a maximum of 2 trades per day.
Interesting. So it's not about making a bunch of trades, but really picking those high probability setups, quality over quantity.
Exactly. And here's another rule. If the first trade hits the profit target, he's done for the day. No need to get greedy.
Walk away a winner. What if the first trade doesn't quite hit the profit target, but it's still in profit?
Well, if it only partially reaches the profit target, he might think about re-entering the same trade if the setup's still valid. But here's the key. He'd only risk the profits from the first trade, not the initial capital.
So it's like playing with house money. Now, what about if the first trade is a loss?
If the first trade's a loss, he might try one more setup, but he'd cut his risk in half for that second trade. So in our $50,000 example, if the first trade risked $200 and lost, the second trade would only risk $100.
That's smart. Adjust your risk based on your performance. Stops you from going on tilt.
Right. Now, beyond those specific rules, he also has strategies for managing drawdown and scaling positions.
Drawdown and scaling, those are key for any trader.
Absolutely. Drawdown is the peak-to-trough decline in your account balance. Gatie Trades has a plan for how he adjusts his risk if his account takes a hit of 50% or more.
So it's like a safety net for when things get really tough.
Yeah, like a backup plan. And scaling refers to increasing your position size as your account grows. He's got a plan for gradually increasing risk as he hits new profit milestones.
So it's a way to accelerate your growth while still being responsible.
Exactly. Now back to the FVG LMT order entry. With this technique, you'd put your stop loss just outside the opposite end of the FVG. So for a buy order, your stop would be just above the high of the FVG.
Okay.
And for a sell order, it would be just below the low.
So we're defining our risk up front. If the price goes past this point, I'm out, drawing a line in the sand.
Exactly. Gatie Trades also says to pay attention to those lower time frames like the 1-minute, 5-minute charts. Even if you're trading on a higher time frame, he looks for confirmation there.
Okay.
Like maybe smaller FVGs forming in the direction of the trade.
So it's like getting multiple green lights before you go.
Right. You want that alignment across different time frames.
Isn't that a bit time-consuming, analyzing all those different time frames?
It can be, but he thinks it's worth it. He compares it to a sniper taking aim before taking the shot. You want to make sure everything's perfect before pulling the trigger.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this all comes together.
Yeah.
We've analyzed the market, found a setup using the daily candle PO3 model, and even picked our entry point with the FVG LMT order entry. But what about taking profits? Does Gatie Trades have rules for that too?
He does. Generally, he aims to move his stop loss to break even once the trade has moved in his favor by a certain amount. This way, he's locking in profits, making sure he doesn't give them back. If the profit target is small, he might close the whole position at the target. But if it's a larger target, he might take some profits along the way while letting the rest of the position run.
So it's a balance between taking what you've earned and letting those winners run. But some traders might find all these risk and money management rules a bit restrictive, don't you think?
Some might, yeah. But Gatie Trades, he's all about protecting your capital and staying in the game long term. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? He believes that by following these rules, traders can avoid blowing up their accounts and be more consistent over time.
Risk management is definitely the foundation of his framework. Now, I'm curious about that final step, journaling and improvement. We talked about prepping the journal before you trade. But I imagine there's more to it than just that.
There's definitely more to it than just logging the trades. Gatie Trades has a specific way he does his journal entries. It's not just about what happened, but about really dissecting each trade and pulling out those valuable lessons.
So it's like turning that trading journal into your own personal feedback loop, constantly learning and refining.
Exactly. It's all about growth. I think it's time we move on to part 3 and explore this final step. Picking up right where we left off, journaling. It really is where it all comes together.
We talked about getting that journal ready beforehand, but I'm sure there's more to it than just jotting down a few things after each trade, right?
You're absolutely right. Gatie Trades, he's got a very specific format he uses for his entries. It's not just writing down what happened, you know? It's about dissecting each trade to pull out those lessons, those nuggets of wisdom.
So it's about making that journal a feedback loop.
Exactly. Constantly learning and improving.
Yeah.
So first off, he gives each trade a clear title.
Yeah.
This helps him, when he's looking back, to quickly see what the setup was, the context.
So like daily candle Po3 URSD long or NMXM short GBP JPY.
Exactly. Then he writes down the date, which might seem obvious, but
Oh.
it's all about staying organized.
Yeah, keeping a good record is crucial.
Yeah, for spotting those trends and patterns. He also calculates his net P&L, his profit or loss for that trade, and the risk-reward ratio. This helps him see how he's doing overall, make sure he's taking trades that match his risk management rules.
Makes sense. It's not just about winning or losing. It's about understanding the potential upside and downside.
Exactly. He also notes which trading model he used, like was it the daily candle Po3 or the MMXM, and which entry model did he use, the FEG LNT order entry, you know? By tracking those, he can start to see, okay, which strategies are really clicking for me
Right.
and which ones might need some work.
So it's like a database of your trading decisions. You can analyze it.
Exactly. See where your strengths are, where you need to improve. And here's one that I think is super important, where he tracks whether he broke any of his rules during the trade.
Oh, the accountability.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up and deviate from the plan, but having that record there makes you face it.
It's all about honesty,
Yeah.
being self-aware. You know, by looking at those rule breaks, you can try to figure out, okay, what's going on in my head that caused me to do that?
Right.
And you can work on your discipline.
It really resonates. It's like when you're trying to eat healthy and you find yourself reaching for that extra cookie, even though
Yeah.
you told yourself you wouldn't. Having that record, it's motivating in a way.
Gatie Trades, he also has a section for general notes and observations. You know, anything that stood out to him about the trade or the market itself.
Yeah.
Lessons learned, ideas for the future.
So it's that space to capture those thoughts that might otherwise disappear.
Exactly. And last but not least, a screenshot of the chart, right at the moment of entry.
Okay.
So he can really see that setup, remember what he was thinking.
It's like a photo memory of each trade. I can see how helpful that would be to see your thought process.
It turns your journal into this amazing learning tool. You can analyze your performance, understand your wins and losses, and just keep getting better.
You know, it's really striking how his framework goes beyond just the technical stuff. There's this focus on personal growth, being self-aware, always improving.
Yeah, I agree. It's a well-rounded approach. Trading isn't just about the markets. It's about mastering yourself, too.
Absolutely. Well, this deep dive has been really insightful. We explore the ICT trading framework from start to finish, from psychology to those detailed setups, to managing your risk, and finally to that essential step of journaling and reflection.
We covered a lot, from those 10 characteristics of a successful trader all the way to his specific journal format. You should have a pretty good understanding of this framework now.
Definitely. And you know, as we wrap up, I keep thinking about that psychological reminder. It's such a simple but powerful idea. It makes me wonder, could we use a similar reminder in other areas of life? Like before a tough project at work or even a difficult conversation? Could it help us stay calm and focused?
That's a great point. It shows how these principles can be applied beyond trading. Discipline, self-awareness, always striving to improve those are valuable everywhere.
It's about taking what works for traders and applying it to our own challenges.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful, maybe even spark some ideas you can use in your own journey.
Both in trading and in life.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deeper.